What's good, folks? Welcome to another episode of the Cover One Film Room, the only show that gives you the hows and the whys behind all the good and all the bad of the Buffalo Bills. I'm one of your two hosts, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Eric Turner. And Eric,
what's up?
We've been doing a lot of table setting the past several weeks. We've been talking about needs for this Bills team. We've been talking about skill sets. We've been talking about traits. We've been talking about what it looks like offensively and defensively. We talked about coaching changes on both sides of the ball and what that could mean philosophically and schematically. And we've done all of that to set that base, set that foundation, set that table. And now we start to build upon those things and expand and expound upon those things. And in that vein, tonight, we have a very fun episode where you and I are both going to go through a list of our top free agent fits for the Buffalo Bills, obviously focusing a little bit on the cost because that's very relative to the Bills situation. But
especially this year.
We've got cost relevant pieces. We've got film relevant pieces, scheme fit, advanced metrics. Again, we've got tape to go along with it. We've got some really fun pieces that we've designed and put through to the Cover One website that we're going to show and share with you folks that are that's a necessary one-stop shop for you to go to for Bills content going forward. But we also have a really fun piece to kind of lead off the show with relevant to some work that we've done. So there's a lot to get through in tonight's episode on this fun Wednesday here in the offseason.
Yeah, the offseason, it's been fun so far. As you said, skills, trades, talking draft, needs, all that good stuff. We're going to change gears just a little bit and start to focus on free agency. It's right around the corner. The combine's in a couple weeks. And for everyone that doesn't realize this, the combine's great for college players, testing, getting all those numbers, getting your spreadsheets all in line and getting those measurables on paper. It's great. But a lot of the work that's done there in Indy is behind the scenes by agents, by front office personnel, contract discussions. You know, it's not technically the legal tampering period, but this stuff happens.
That's when the Bills the Bills kind of locked things up with Von Miller a couple of years ago at that combine. Yeah.
And so a lot of that stuff happens behind the scenes. And so it's the entire NFL's there. And that's why these things happen. And so we're going to switch gears. We're going to do free agency. As Anthony said, we set up the website with a bunch of free agent profiles for guys that we think will fit financially, schematically. We had Greg and the analytics team working on numbers, working on contracts. Anthony and I did the film and the scouting reports for it. So we're going to take basically our list, and we made this free agency list without knowing each other's hands. All right. So we studied all of these guys, and I told Anthony, let's get our top 8 so we can discuss it on the show. And so we're going to compare those lists, and it's to no surprise, we have a lot, similar guys on those lists without talking. I swear to you, without even saying, and we didn't tip each other's hands. We're going to go through, and compare those lists.
Which also real quick, that's also what we do from a film perspective as well. Like when whoever gets to the film first, 99.8% of the time, it's Eric every Monday. I completely avoid whatever he puts out, Twitter, everything. I don't allow myself
we both
to
go into the lab and just totally
and block out everything. So if we do arrive to a similar conclusion, it happens completely organically. There is no breaking things down as we go. We each do our independent analysis and then come together and put that together for these shows.
Yeah, and so we're going to show you some of those profiles as well on the website, show you some of the capabilities and what you're missing if you're not an insider. We're going to use that website and those profiles to kind of go through our list and compare them, and we'll expand upon why we put them on our list and where they are ranked and whatnot. But as Anthony said, to kind of lead off the show, I want to talk about Gabe Davis, and he put out a tweet this week. Obviously, showed us some love in that video. It's a lengthy video, man, almost like a mini movie in many ways. And it's sad to see, because obviously we're big fans of his game and what he brings to the city of Buffalo, to the team on and off the field. We've broken him down for many years. We've enjoyed watching his development, and we've enjoyed interacting with him behind the scenes. And that's why he gave us some love there. We worked with him. We've been working with him the last couple of years when it comes to some things behind the scenes. Sometimes it's video, sometimes it's stats. But this was a pretty cool video. Again, kind of somber because it is almost like a goodbye. I just don't think the Bills will have the numbers and the money to bring him back. But it's been fun to watch him develop, but it's also been fun to work with him.
Yeah, he's a good dude on and off the field. One of the one of the true leaders for this team. You saw him awarded with that captain's piece this season, and everything he does every offseason, winning like the Ironman Award back-to-back years for what he does from a strength and conditioning standpoint. And yeah, it was a pleasure to be able to, what you're seeing right here in this graphic for him on Twitter right now, like these stats and these metrics, the pieces that we as a brand help put together for him that really kind of put into perspective his performance in the league so far on that rookie. And we've also, Eric, like you said, put together some film things for him to kind of show his skill set and his ability. And honestly, it's that, I think that work that opened my eyes up even more, like to like the frustrations he potentially might be feeling as a player, like seeing the work that he's doing on the field and watching him get open and not necessarily be involved in the progression or not getting the ball. And just, I know how polarizing he is for a lot of Bills fans. And you and I have both have spoken about what we would like to see more from a wide receiver too. But I think his loss is a bit underrated from an on the field perspective and off the field perspective as well. And yeah, it was a pleasure to work with him while he was here in Buffalo, and we'll see what happens going forward with him. But it was pretty easy to put this kind of content together for him because he's got some good tape and some really wild advanced metrics when you really dive into it.
Yeah, and I know we took a little criticism for some of those metrics, but the numbers are what they are since he's been in the league. I mean, they are what they are. They're really, you just trying to find out how to paint that picture and show that how valuable he was on the field. We talk to players all the time behind the scenes. We know the character behind him from even just being, talking to him and being partnering up with him. Like, we know the character and what he brings and how hard he works. But to see these numbers when, Andrew, yourself and I started putting these things together, we're like, wow, man, that's pretty remarkable. So good work by yourself, Andrew, and the entire team.
And you as well.
Up. Yeah, of course. Spearheading that, of course. So you guys did a lot of the legwork for that. But no, it was fun. Obviously, he's not the only player that we've worked with and are working with, but that's just something that, I thought was really, really cool for him to reach out and do that and shout us out. And of course, I mean, then you saw Josh and all of his teammates chime in and how important he has been for the culture and foundation of this team the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And even I want to grab this comment from Dan saying Gabe can't yell F you at fans during a game. I mean, it's funny how things always get like caught, but the things that were being said to teammates of Gabe Davis, I have no problem with Gabe coming to his teammates back and defending him. And also right after that, him being one of the first guys to go grab Tyler Bass in the tunnel and like stick up.
And that's why he was cussing at that fan. It's not like he came up and pushed him or anything, but he was cussing at that fan because that fan was making some remarks about Tyler Bass and even Josh Allen, and it was Gabe Davis that got heated there. So
and I
again,
got no
context matters. No problem with that.
Context matters. These dudes are warriors out there. They grind together. They spend so much time working on their craft. And I understand the fan perspective. And you are a fan of a team and you get emotional. But I think it's pretty uncalled for to cuss dudes out, especially in a moment like that where Tyler Bass already feels terrible. Like, you feel good kicking a dude when he's down and yelling at him on the bench, also knowing that he can't do anything to you. And also, if he does, you already got your phone out ready to record him so you can catch him in the moment. Like, I think that's a leadership move by Gabe, sticking up for his teammate and his boy. And no, I disagree no, he was just yelling at, I'm not going to get into this debate now. Gabe's a leader in like through and through. And we wish him the best anywhere and everywhere he goes. And he's going to get, relatively speaking, he's going to get paid on the open market because his skill set, for as limited as it may be for some fans, it's valuable with what he does in the run game and from a leadership perspective, and even as a receiver as well. He's going to get paid on the open market, which is why he ain't coming back.
And I think it was Greg that said it in our company chat, is that the contracts for wide receivers and some of the skill positions are going to go back to kind of normal. Last year was like a depreciated year.
Yeah, Jacoby Myers got weird money after everybody thought the year before Christian Kirk and Zay Jones blew up. You thought the same thing would happen, but no, that roller coaster is going to pick back up.
Yeah, I do think obviously there's a few teams that can't, including the Bills, make those type of pitches and those numbers. But I do think that he's going to get a healthy contract. It's, rightfully deserved. And his everything that's coming his way is well deserved and earned, every step of the way. There's no doubt about it, man. So I thought that was cool either way. I wish I could say it's not a farewell, but the way we've been working with things and the lay of the league, I do think that was more of a farewell. And it was a good, chronicle of his entire draft process up until, the last game he played in. So good stuff from Gabe. But yeah, we wanted to kick off the show with that, just to kind of give you guys a peek behind the curtain on things that we have going on, not just film rooms, not just disguised coverage, not just what you see on social media. We're trying to do other things as well, bigger things, and we're making those moves. And hopefully long term, we can quit our day jobs and do something more full time when it comes to stuff like this.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of, I think that's, again, something that separates us, especially here, like within this show. Like, I don't think, and nobody does the film like we do here on this show and breaks down the X's and O's and the actual, granted, it's Bill specific, but the actual bones of football concepts and coverages and why this play worked and why it didn't and what the design is and the schematics and all of it. Like, I think that already sets us apart. But as a brand, even more so, given the things that we're doing behind the scenes, like you said, Eric, like it's not just, Twitter action and podcast and videos and things like that. There is a lot of moving and shaking from a legit perspective behind the scenes. And, with what Gabe shared, that's just one small tidbit of a lot of the action that we've got going on behind the scenes. It's a very exciting time to be a part of the brand. And we're very much looking forward to the future and seeing where we go.
Yeah. And speaking of exciting, as we had, led off with, we've been busting our ass to get some profiles out for you guys. Each week we're in here. I mean, even during some of the draft stuff, you guys are like dropping free agent names and stuff like that. So we're like, okay, we're going to give you guys what you want. And so we, again, tried to get a bunch of draft profiles, scheme fits, financial fits for you guys up on the website. And so you go to cover1.football. In the very top right, you're going to see Buffalo Bills free agent target. You click that, you're going to get this landing page. And we have, I want to say, up over 20 profiles already up on players that we think are financial or scheme fits. And we're talking all different tiers. Guys are like, I don't know if they can really afford this unless they make some moves financially with contracts they already have. And guys are like, no one really even knows about, but that are really good players and guys that caught our eye when we're, scouring the internet, film, and statistics. And so we're going to go over some of those guys tonight. So, Anthony, let's kick off, man. Let's take a look at the free agent list that you prepared tonight. We're going to take a look, and we're going to start at the bottom, guys. All right, we're going to start at the bottom at 8, kind of work our way towards number 1, and we're going to compare some of these guys because Anthony's list has some similarities to what I have too. So let's start off with number 8, defensive tackle Malcolm Roach. Obviously, a huge hole in the middle of this defense right now with DaQuan Jones. So, I mean, hopefully he can come back to Buffalo, but I think it's a long shot. It may take a little while, may take, a couple ways to maybe bring him back if he doesn't get those offers. But Malcolm Roach, defensive tackle, the Saints, what caught your eye about this defensive tackle?
So I started with cost. I hate saying that because like that's the landscape we live in. Like everything, and that's also important too with like everything we have on the website, right? It's not just like we're going through every single free agent. They have to fit either schematically, they have to fit the need, they have to fit from a cost profile as well. And so Malcolm Roach, I initially looked at the run stop numbers for, and that's where he and, I'll get to A'Shawn Robinson obviously in a minute, but from the qualifying defensive linemen in general, not just interior defenders, not just edge defenders, like literally looking at anybody who plays defensive line, 267 qualifying players who had at least 20% of snaps in 2023. Malcolm Roach was first in stop percentage. A'Shawn Robinson was second in stop percentage. And so those numbers immediately caught my eye. They're both free agents, different monetary tiers. But you look at Malcolm Roach, and the only thing I don't like about him is that there's not too much pass rush pop. And Eric, I know that summary up on the site is yours, and he ranks a little higher for you, so I don't want to steal too much of your thunder. But you watch him play the run, and he can get penetration. He anchors well. He doesn't get moved off the spot. He had more agility than I anticipated. Like you'll watch him make some plays against the run where like he's scraping over the top and avoiding like other guys who are getting pushed forward and the line is getting displaced a little bit and he's making plays. He's slipping blocks. He's slipping through. He does a good job breaking down blocks and recognizing like schemes that are coming his way. And ideally, we talked about it in the traits episode a couple weeks ago on the defense. ideally, the depth guys on the interior for the Bills, they like to have them be more well-rounded. Guys who can do a little bit of pass rush and a little bit of run stopping as well. Malcolm Roach doesn't have too much from a pass rush perspective, which is why he's a little lower on my list. Same thing with A'Shawn Robinson. But what he does against the run is so tremendous, especially for a dude who's only 290 pounds. Like,
right, he's undersized. No doubt.
Yes, you would see that weight and think, oh, okay, this guy's got to be like a speed rusher. He's got to be pass rush pop on the inside. No, he is a run defender through and through, strong at the point of attack, uses his hands well, plays with leverage. He's a dog inside. And even though he's not that well-rounded, the niche role that he would fit, he's so good at it, it's worth it.
Yeah, and he's number 2 on my list when it comes to free agents here. I have him right behind DaQuan Jones. So he's number 2. And the reason I have him number 2 is his versatility. So yes, he's undersized at 290, but he primarily played nose tackle in a very similar scheme, as Den said in our chat. But okay, maybe he's not a starter. You're bringing this guy in, according to Greg, the projection would be a 1-year, $2 million deal, almost no guarantees at all. I mean, you're talking about at the very least a rotational piece, a guy that could come in and be that, that Tim Settle, Poona Ford behind Ed Oliver and the starting nose tackle. But I do think he can play nose tackle. As you guys can see, even at 290, he's a little lighter, but he can play pretty well over the center. And so part of my summary, I'll read it to you for our listeners that listen in the podcast version. He's a versatile defensive lineman who primarily operates from nose tackle alignments. His quick initial step grants him positional leverage. Of course, that would happen. Hold on one second. Let me go back.
Let that video keep rolling. Yeah, he's a nice piece. Like there's a lot of those highlights, man, are just so. Yeah, let the highlights wash over you.
He's just around the ball all the time, man. His effectiveness in run defense is fueled by his forceful hands and footwork, enabling him to violently stack and shed his blockers. He consistently demonstrates a knack for being around the ball, establishing himself as a tremendous force against the run. He's one of the best run defenders that you've never heard of. And my number 1 target behind DaQuan Jones, obviously, who we've gushed about already in this episode. But I'm with you. I do think he has a lot to add when it comes to the pass rush. But I think if given just one role, as you guys can see in some of these clips, he's playing defensive end in a 5-man surface. And so he's being asked to do different things. I think if he plays in the Bills even front, whether it's nickel or 4-3 looks, and he's asked to just get upfield and use his quickness to insert into his gap like he does in the run game, but as a pass rusher, I think he can do a lot of the same things that we've seen from DaQuan with some of those just quick arm overs, attacking the snapper's hand, stuff like that. So I do think there's still some upside, but he obviously showed a lot of strength when it came to the defending run. That's why he was on both of our lists, number 8 for you and number 2 for me. So who you have next up? I know you kind of mentioned there for a second. Who's number 7 on your list?
So Mr. A'Shawn Robinson, similar vein. He's going to cost a bit more. I have him lower on my list and at 7 just because of, again, he's not going to give you too much pass rush pop or productivity. But seeing how he was used with the Giants this past year, they do a lot of odd front stuff and more he was playing more 3-4 defensive end type thing. So you're seeing him aligned in a 4 technique or a 4-eye, he's over the tackle or on the inside shoulder of the tackle, or sometimes he's kicking out further and he's aligned over a tight end. But just seeing what he's able to do as a space eater, as a people eater, and also from a statistical perspective, again, so of all, however I forget the number, let me go back and get it again, similar to Malcolm Roach from a statistical perspective. So again, out of 267 qualifying defensive linemen, interior and edge players, Malcolm Roach was first in stop percentage. A'Shawn Robinson was second in stop percentage at 14.1%. A'Shawn Robinson also from a volume perspective was also 5th in the entire league in stops. And again, that's with him playing aligned, over tackles and playing outside a bit more and having to use more agility instead of just being able to be used as primarily a 1 tech. I'd like to see him inserted in this defense.
And he's an early down defender too, right? He was really that early down run defender. When you saw him on third downs or pass rush downs, you didn't flash as much, kind of like Roach in that regard. I think they're very similar players. Again, just different tiers as far as price points.
And even to that fact, you really don't see A'Shawn Robinson on third down. If he's on the field, it's because someone is gassed. He's not really staying on there. It's not an ideal piece. And again, you have Eric, you have your write-up for him queued up
Yeah.
that you have on the website. But I looked at him as a guy who is a veteran presence. He's physical, sheds blocks, and also eats blocks. And with his size coming in around 320 pounds, he moves
Yeah.
better for 320 pounds than you would expect. He still has enough juice and burst where he can penetrate or he can shed blocks at the line and generate a stop. It's why he's not just eating up bodies and getting stops. Like, he can still win up front. And with his size, his hand usage, the competitive level that he plays at, and the physicality, having someone with that size and frame on the interior also helps keep Terrell Bernard clean, Matt Milano clean, Taron Johnson clean. So I liked him from a production standpoint and a size and frame perspective. And I also think, again, like putting him more at that one tech instead of as a more like 3-4 defensive end plays better to his skill set and obviously fits the need.
Yeah, he's got good size, and I like how you mentioned the hand usage part, because in some of these clips, you can see the hip, the upper body or torso of that offensive lineman really just get jacked up and jacked back. There was a couple reps where the offensive lineman knees buckled because of the power and shock on contact by Robinson. And I said his signature trait or skill is winning ugly, but he's winning because technically he's not the soundest guy. He's kind of just like a bull in a china shop in a lot of ways.
Power dude.
But somehow he finds the ball. Somehow he's able to track the running back down the line of scrimmage and make a bunch of tackles in the run game. So I think that, again, I'll take that, especially if you're talking an early down run defender, especially if you're talking a rotational piece. And the size that he brings, he's a veteran. He's got that savvy experience. And he's played in multiple defensive fronts, kind of like Roach. They kind of would go in and out of different, even fronts, odd man surfaces, and under Wink Martindale. So if the Bills, we talked about it with Babbage and some of the staff they're bringing in and some of the tweaks and maybe some of the change in philosophy, maybe we'll see some different defensive structures, maybe some more odd man fronts like you're seeing in trend across the league, so that you can keep a Terrell Bernard clean when you have lighter defensive linemen in front of him. So they can do some different things. Robinson and Roach, in many ways, can add some versatility and diversity to the defensive structure of the Bills defense.
Absolutely. And again, you're trying to do what you can from a cost perspective. So this isn't somebody who's going to break the bank. He's going to be more expensive than Roach. I would bet almost my life on that. But you are just trying, again, to put pieces together that can function. So is where Roach, again, I like the upside of Roach and your point of, hey, if you align him, instead of putting him all over the place, if you align him in that one singular role with his burst and his penetration ability, like he can function, and maybe you do get more pass rush pop out of him. I have Robinson just a tier ahead because I think he offers more starting known quantity right now, and trying to find known quantity on the open market, given their cap situation, again, is a nice piece. And I love the winning ugly aspect as well. And he had a nice clip today that I put up on Twitter. It's against the Niners, and he gets down blocked by George Kittle and their other tight end. But as it's happening, he's watching Elijah Mitchell get the ball, and he spins out of it. And it's not like the cleanest or most fluid spin, but it just works. And he spins out of it and meets Mitchell right in the hole. And it was such a nice, it was chaos in that moment of him getting double teamed. And he was just like, no, I'm reading the play. Okay. And then just uses those. Just
winning
those big,
ugly. It's not perfect. But he knows where the block's coming from. He understands blocking concepts, and then he can process it and then, get to that next step of, maybe it's not the prettiest spin move, maybe it's not the prettiest arm over, but he knows where the entry point is for the running back, and he's able to, time it perfectly and disengage at the right time to make those tackles in the hole.
Yeah, and he's another, he's a guy who gums up the works. I gravitate towards those type of dudes, and with the size and frame, it's a nice piece.
All right, so number 6 on your list, Brandon Jones, safety from the Dolphins. He's another guy that kind of showed up on both of our lists. So I have Brandon Jones as number 6 as well. Again, coincidentally, number 6 as well. So why don't you tell us what you liked about Brandon Jones's film? And I know for both of us, having scouted him all the way back to Texas, he's a guy that we even liked coming out of college.
So I was going to say, so that's Brandon Jones is the example of guys who I liked coming out of college, and I keep tabs on them. And once they're a UFA, I immediately go back to be like, okay, do they fit the Bills? Oh no, the Bills are flush at safety. Okay, he'll go somewhere else and do something good. But knowing that it was a need, you put out a clip or a reel of him I think last week. And as soon as I saw it, I immediately text you. I was like, I love Brandon Jones. Like I just liked what he did at Texas. And I think he was an underrated aspect in the Dolphins defense these past several years. And it's understandable, like having Javon Holland on that defense and Christian Wilkins and Xavier Howard, and then they get Jalen Ramsey and Jalen Phillips, like all the name recognition. I feel like he was a bit of an unsung hero. I like his versatility. Oh, right on time there. I like his blitzing ability. He's got good timing and pace and burst with his blitzing. Like you often see him bearing down clean on the quarterback. And it's not just because, well, they ran a cover zero blitz and he's the free man. Like he understands the pacing aspect and where to go. But really from a coverage perspective, I found myself really impressed with his tape. I went to the first game I watched was the game against Kansas City in the playoffs for Miami. Obviously a game where they did not perform well. But he had a lot of really solid reps covering down on Travis Kelce, communicating on the back end. It was him and Deshaun Elliott at safety, who Elliott's playing with a banged up leg. You can watch him cover and have range as a single high post safety, like you're showing in that clip there. Bro, yeah. And the physicality for a dude who's only 198 pounds, he brings it on every rep. And I just like his ability to cover down, his ability to carry vertically. He's responsible in both zone and match coverages. He has good range. He stays over the top on routes and plays that top hip or that top shoulder so he can close down. And just watching the way he collects from the route distributions, it was very sound. He's very rarely out of position. And given the cost that we anticipate him coming in at and the skill set and scheme fit, I think he's a real high potential, nice piece to play alongside Jordan Poyer because he has that speed and range that fits with what Poyer is at this point in his career, combined with the overall scheme fit in the Bills defense.
Yeah, very athletic. He's got that positional flexibility. He's proficient at making tackles from depth, and he plays with like a downhill click and close style. He's very physical, as you said. And my signature trait for him was his explosive physicality because like you see there, like he click and closes. And when he does go to make a tackle, it's a forceful tackle. It's explosive like that. He throws his entire body into it. He makes those impact plays. You see him coming from depth there to make the tackle on Cook when they played the Bills. His explosiveness at the point of contact, you could tell he relished, physicality and delivering those big hits. And that's why I had that big trait for him. It just showed on his film. And honestly, it's why he played that kind of like a apex defender type role in Texas.
Yeah, he was like the monster man kind of dude.
Yeah. At Texas, he was all over the place when it came to that. And so I do think he'd be a good fit for the Bills. And he's got that range, as you said, whether they want to play 2 high or 1 high, he does have those abilities. But he's, again, a guy that made both lists for us, number 6 overall. And so the next guy, number 5 on your list, wide receiver, Noah Brown. He is number 7 on my list. And so I want you to talk about Noah Brown. He's another guy. If you're talking physicality, Noah Brown brings that. He brings a hammer in all phases of his game.
So he's somebody who had been on my radar all season, mainly because of my love for Tank Dell by extension brought me to this Texans offense this year. And the season, obviously the Texans season, but statistically and advanced metrics wise, Tank Dell, Noah Brown, and Nico Collins had phenomenal years from an advanced metric perspective. Like Nico Collins being one of the best receivers consistently in like EPA per target and a bunch of advanced metrics pieces like that. And so I'd seen a bunch of Noah Brown, and I didn't look to him initially for the Bills because you and I both talked about wanting more speed into the receiver group, and especially from the wide receiver 2 spot. And he's not really a speed guy, runs in the 4.5s, but he runs a 4.5 at 6'2", 215 pounds. And watching the tape, he wins vertically a bunch, and he wins vertically a bunch, especially in this Texans offense. This Texans offense was a downfield, explosive, vertical kind of offense, and he wins
like you're seeing there, right?
Exactly.
27.3% explosive target percentage. That was 16th overall among all wide receivers last year. Again, you talked about height, speed, measurables. He doesn't seem like he'd be a vertical guy, but he was explosive last year, as you see down the field on that deep over.
I got some more advanced metrics for you. So out of 80 wide receivers in 2023 that had at least 50 targets, he was 20th in EPA per target, 31st in yards per route run, but here come the big ones. 6th in yards per target, 4th in yards per reception, 12th in first down percentage, 17th in QB rating when targeted, and 19th in average depth of catch at 10.4 yards. And a lot of these big ones downfield that you're seeing, you watch him, like, he runs pretty much, he has some pacing, but he runs a lot of his routes at full speed, but he's quick out of his breaks. He sells routes with body language, with body lean, with his eyes. He can separate with physicality in the stem, but that quickness in and out of his breaks where he doesn't really have to change his gait, that's a lot of the ways that he wins. And you're seeing a really good representation in this video package of how he wins. Those deep sit routes or deep hooks, the deep overs, the posts, the corners. He has a nice ability to win in the scramble drill. He'll look for space and uncover, and he's very QB friendly. He's also tough after the catch. Like, that's where you see that 6'2", 215-pound frame start to work. And that play right there too is a really good example. Like, he gets the safety to open up by his body language and lean in that stem. You have him highlighted there. Like, he presses upfield, look where his eyes are, his body, and then that's it. It's not the most sudden or sharp route, but he puts that foot in the ground. Safeties turn the other way. Boom. Here's a nice one too. Like, just what he can do underneath. I think he offers you a lot of versatility. He's also a good blocker in the run game. He can crack down on edges and linebackers and safeties. He's got a real nice clip against the Bengals on a touchdown run for Devin Singletary, where he blocks down on Murphy, the edge, and just pins him completely and then flexes after it. Yeah, so he gives you a lot of versatility.
I like his versatility. I like his size. I like his physicality. Again, that's kind of the trait that I picked out for him when it comes to Noah Brown. He carves out release lanes with his physicality, again, with his size, with his strength. He gains leverage against defensive backs with his physicality. And as you mentioned, post catch, no one wants to tackle this guy. He's difficult to bring down post catch, allowing him to maximize those opportunities by transforming routine plays, stop routes, for 7 yards into first downs or explosive plays. And finally, I put he excels at finding voids and zone coverages down the field, as you saw in a lot of those shot calls right off of play action where, they're playing quarters coverage. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to push to the middle of the field. I'm just going to sit down in front of the safeties behind the linebackers and find those big plays, especially some of those plays, as you mentioned, against the Bengals. He's a guy that, he could probably be a good solid number 2 for most teams. And I think that's probably where we would fit him in many ways, kind of the Sherfield type role, maybe even the Gabe Davis type role, but maybe a little more versatility in the short to intermediate area, more yak ability in those areas. Greg projects a 2-year, $8 million, $4 million AAV contract with $6 million guarantees. So a modest contract when you're talking a wide receiver. And I do think he benefited, of course, with some really nice weapons on that offense. Good quarterback who had a great rookie year in CJ Stroud and a great play caller and Bob Slovic. So I do think he's a solid player, and that's why he made both of our lists tonight.
Yeah, and what's nice too is there are games, unfortunately for some of their players, but there's games where Nico Collins is out and Tank Dell is out. And so Noah Brown is the 1 or the 2 in that game. And it's not like his production dipped. Like, he actually had monster numbers in those games where he was more of a focal point in the offense. And yeah, it's just a nice little skill set to add. And I love the point too, you mentioned, like, how he's able to find that space downfield against zone. Like, and I think that attaches well to just his ability overall to attack defensive back leverage. Because again, he's not the shiftiest or the suddenness or the most sudden or sharpest type of route runner, but he knows how to get defenders in general, how to turn, how to open up. And once he sees that, he capitalizes on it and moves the other way and gets open consistently, especially downfield. And that works in this Bills offense.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so let's move forward. Let's take a look at my list. Number 5, since we covered some of the guys already. Let's go to number 5. Defensive end Tyquan Lewis from the Colts, a guy that we both liked. And, Greg, he has Tyquan making right around $4 million per season, $6 million guaranteed on a 2-year contract, a 17.1% pass rush win percentage, which was ranked top 20 among edge rushers. Last year, dude, he balled out. You watched a bunch of his film with the Colts. He had 44 total pressures in 2023. And I'm going to let some of those roll here on the screen. But he's a guy I really like from the sense of he's got that versatility. He's kind of a thicker built defensive end and a guy that can win in many ways. But it's really his ability to generate power He's got active feet and hands. Some of the notes from my summary were is a versatile physical defender, active feet and hands, demonstrates the ability to excel in various alignments. They put him at defensive end, they put him at defensive tackle, in odd and even fronts. Again, adding to that versatility. He played with a high motor and effort, maintaining leverage on the ball, whether it's a run or pass. He doesn't have, Anthony, a really quick, explosive first step as a pass rusher, but he generates power from the ground up. He's rooted in many ways. And when you see him push off and he's got his legs in the ground, he's able to drive guys back. As you'll see a lot of this film, he's able to compress that pocket, and that tenacity and relentless power as a pass rusher really blows up a lot of the pockets. And I said in my notes, man, he attacks blockers with a "I'm here to fuck shit up" attitude. He's that kind of guy, just a bull in a china shop, just blowing things up. Again, it's not always pretty, but he's always affecting the quarterback when he's rushing the passer.
Yeah, that's a great synopsis and summary of who and what he is. The thing that attracted me first with him was, the advanced metrics. And I saw it and I was like, okay, cool. Let me pop on the tape. Because I remembered him a bit, but I didn't see a ton of Colts games this year. And I remembered him flashing a bit, but I was like, okay, let's turn on the tape. And you see the size and the frame and the play style, it just fits a lot from an archetype standpoint for the Bills. He is a pocket compressor. He wants to go through your chest. Or if he's Marshawn Lynch as a running back, he's running through someone's face. I'm not going to go with the full language there. Like, he's running through dude's face. And you see it here on these reps. Like, he's running through tackles. He's running through guards. The hand usage, the violence, the pop, the physicality. You're not going to see him pulling out the sexiest or the cleanest move. You're just going to see him win with physicality. He's going to beat you up front for the consistency of all four quarters wherever he's aligned. And that alignment versatility that you spoke to was also a nice piece that I like. And you're seeing it in some of these clips, like him being aligned on the inside, like as being a 3-tech and kicked in over guards. And they had a nice, you and I were talking about it over text. They had a nice group of edge defenders. Like, he was factored in with Kwity Paye and Samson Ebukam, who we both liked last year. And then David Odeyingbo, who started to rise up in his third year. So they had a good group. And even, Buckner and Grover Stewart, they had a cool defensive lineup there. And Tyquan Lewis was getting consistent reps on first and second down. On third down, he'd be at edge. They'd kick him inside on third downs to be kind of like a NASCAR package type of thing, like you see there with Odeyingbo and Ebukam. And just with what he can do from a versatility perspective and the archetype fit combined with the cost, he's a dude I like a lot. He was my last, if we're talking like March Madness bracket language, he was my last dude out. I was very, very close. I wanted him to have a little longer arms. I was hoping that he would hit like 34, and I didn't know if that would scare the Bills off, but everything else is tick the box from an archetype fit. Like, Bills don't want these super twitched up, bendy edge guys. They want somebody who's thick framed with size, who runs through people up front.
All right, let's move on to your number 4, safety, Jeremy Chinn. I think this might be your crush for free agency, bro.
So this is another dude, liked coming out of college. He's actually not my biggest love on my list.
All right.
He's been surpassed.
Okay.
But, and I think, and Eric, I know you said something similar, I believe. There's so much with Chinn. I still find him so intriguing, but he got used everywhere so much that I think it would do him some good to finally be able to sit down at one position and just do one thing. And he has so much versatility, which I think is awesome. But Carolina was like, okay, rookie year, you're going to be like a box safety. Okay, year 2, we're going to put you in as more of a deep safety and mix you in with the box. Okay, year 3, same thing. Okay, year 4, you're just an apex defender and also a linebacker between the last 2 years. Like, he got put into all these alignments and roles. And you want to do that because of his versatile skill set, like the athleticism, the size, the frame. He's 6'3", 221 pounds, like you have up there. He runs a 4.4. He does not move like a dude who's 6'3", 220 pounds. And that type of size for a safety in today's NFL is absolutely wild. But given what he's able to do, again, with his athleticism, his size, you see him tracking downfield. These are clips that I had to go find from like 2021 and 2022 because this deep safety type of role didn't exist for him in 2023 with him playing the apex. And then you go back and watch if Bills fans remember, he picks off Josh Allen in 2021 because he's covering the flat as a down safety, reads Josh Allen's eyes, peels off his man, sinks underneath Stephon Diggs, and goes up in skies and plucks it from the air. Here's him now, like running downfield. We had multiple reps covering Chris Olave downfield in that game. You like the versatility that he brings, athleticism, physicality. I think he can get misled with his eyes from time to time, but I think
he bites on play action really bad and drops tight ends for like wide open touchdowns last year. At least he did that several times. His teammates were looking back and I'm like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah, what the hell are you doing? Like, and even when he was functioning more as like a linebacker role in 2022, like you'll see him get lost at times from like a run perspective, like the aspect of getting lost with, okay, this guard is pulling. Okay, cool. I'm going with the guard, but
he's got processing issues at times.
Yes,
no doubt. And
that's why I think if you stick him in one spot, let him see the game from that point and build upon that skill set.
Yeah, I think you've talked about the athleticism. It's really been his calling card. You kind of see it there and that, timing that blitz, but he can be a force in and around their line of scrimmage. And I get why they use him as that apex defender. He's got that size. He can come down and fill, a la what Taron Johnson does for the Bills. There's no doubt about it, but you really didn't see that athleticism make those splash plays consistently like we expected coming out of college. Like when coming out of college, it was really between him and Duggar. Those were like the those flex safeties, the new age safeties that were coming out at the same time. And you were either in the Duggar camp or you were in the Chinn camp. And personally, I was more in the Duggar camp. And I just think that, yes, there's that, that whole how he was used, and it doesn't mean he can't be a deep safety, but his you talked about his processing. He lacks the ability to consistently anticipate routes. He doesn't, whether it's just a single route or a route combination, you see the athleticism show in recovery mode because he's a little late to recognize what's developing in front of him. And so I want to see more of that anticipatory play when it comes to defending routes and defending route concepts. His athleticism is great too. In man coverage, you match him up on the tight end. Cool. That's great. But then he's getting called for pass interference a bunch and he's grabby at the top of these routes. So I do see the athleticism, but more times than not, it's to make up for the lack of processing on the front end. And so, there's a guy we'll talk about later, safety, that I like that is really the complete opposite in Alohi Gilman from the Chargers. Is he doesn't have all those physical skills that Chinn has, but he plays quicker from the shoulders up. And we always talk about that, how, you can play fast in different ways. Sometimes it's immeasurables, sometimes it's from the shoulders up.
Absolutely. And I think that's spot on. Like my thought with Chinn is, I think with the injuries that he's had the past couple of years, he had 2 stints on the IR, one last year, one in 2022. Between that and being bounced all over the place and the inconsistency, I don't think he's going to cost much coming in here. I think you can get him as a relatively cost-effective player, and plugging him into a team that has shown the propensity to develop secondary guys left and right throughout Sean McDermott's tenure. You take this dude with size and athleticism and raw traits and weight and speed and all that kind of stuff. You coach him up into more of a siloed role instead of giving him 15 assignments for every game. Stop trying to use him like Troy Polamalu. There's some times where, cool, you're going to bring him on a blitz or we can do some fun things with him, but stop trying to put him in this constant chess piece type of role. Let him play one role and learn it. I think the long-term benefit could play well. The other thing that I potentially don't like, him and Poyer, I think there's a little redundancy from a skill set perspective. So I would like more of a true, even though we're not in this day and age anymore, I would like someone to come in with more of a free safety type of skill set or background to play the post safety a little bit more. But I trust in McDermott and the staff. That's where this comes in. I like Chinn for the Bills because of the coach up factor that I believe the Bills can get him to. Like, and you take a 6'3", 221-pound 4'4" safety who's got versatility. Okay, cool. Let's coach him up. And then all of a sudden, is he starting to hit that potential and that ceiling that you thought he would hit when he came out in that class. And also, last piece, I love Kyle Duggar. I just don't. I wish he was going to be more cost effective for the Bills.
Oh yeah, he's way pricier.
There's a bunch of people that keep being like, oh well, what about Duggar? I'm like, they can't afford him. Like, there's not even. It's not even worth putting him on the thing.
Even Chinn is kind of on that fringe because, as Greg says here, he might be $6 million. He might be 16 million. We don't know. It depends on the market. Depends on what team still believes he has some of that, 2021, 22 film, and how he was, probably going to be more used. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to gauge what his contract will look like because of him being shuffled around and his injuries. And so who knows? We really don't know where he falls when it comes to that, when it comes to the contract. But he is a guy that it would be interesting to see this staff get their hands on him because he's a different type of animal when we're talking 6'3", 221 pounds with 4.4 type speed.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's a dude that could potentially shift the box a little bit. But now who is your number 4 here?
So number 4 for me, I'm on the offensive side of the ball. Wide receiver Josh Reynolds from the Lions. A guy that, I said he's a pro's pro because he really he's not going to be a vertical guy. He's not going to be a quick winner underneath in the quick game. He's just he does everything good, but not great. And I don't mean that as a smack in the face, as a, when it comes to his game. I honestly think that what he does would be really good for the Bills and Josh Allen and to add some stability to the offense as a wide receiver too. Greg thinks his AAV would probably be right around $5 million a year, $5 million guaranteed. And some of my notes, as you guys can see in our profiles, I said he's a pro's pro, known for his smooth, stable running gait and precise route running. And I'm talking route running like really good nuance. So maybe he only runs in the 4.5s, mid 4.5s, but his route running is so good. He excels in the short and intermediate areas by skilling routes that Gabe Davis kind of skilled, right? Digs, post, and stop routes. He lacks that deep threat speed, but compensates with route nuance, excellent body control on contested catches, and the ability to pluck the ball out of the air before the defensive backs can make plays on the ball. And that's something you're going to see constantly once I hit play here for the film. His ability to be QB friendly, to work back to the ball is just phenomenal. Adjust to inaccurate passes like that play on the back hip. He does that all over his film. He is truly QB friendly. And even when he's covered in all areas of the field, he's open if the quarterback trusts him. And there were some drop issues at times, especially late last year in critical situations.
Yeah.
But I think he's a guy, if you put him in the Bills offense as, again, a wide receiver too, and flexing him out wide as a boundary guy. Look at this route versus Snead. Look at him uncover versus Snead on that play. Like, that one stuck out to me when I was watching his film against the Chiefs. Look at the bottom of the screen, how he separates, get vertical, and then look at the separation at the top. Snaps that route off, works back to the ball, and then he gets yards after the catch. So he's doing that against a top 5 corner in the league there. I think you put him in the Bills offense, he'll have a great role. He'll add some stability, some consistency, some good route running, some trustworthy play from the wide receiver position. But again, if you're adding younger guys from the draft and free agency into the wide receiver room, he's the guy that these guys will look up to as that savvy veteran. Diggs is more of like, I'm a leader by example and motivation. This guy right here he'll lead by example, but he'll also coach guys up. I think he'd be a good piece to add, and he wouldn't cost much if we're talking about his contract.
No, he's going to be an affordable guy, which is, again, the lens that we have to look at everyone through this offseason. I also like the pedigree he comes from, like the success that he had in that Rams offense, the success that he had in this Lions offense. He comes from well-coached, well-skilled, precision-based offenses where every step in your release matters. Every inch from the line of scrimmage you are, the end man on the line matters. Where you align, how you align. Also, when these clips are doing a good job too, and like his versatility, like he gives you that inside outside piece, and that's a nice thing to have in a dude that's 6'3", almost 200 pounds at the wide receiver spot. And your signature skill label for him, like the pros pro, is just spot on. Like, he's just a professional wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
He does everything above average. He's not the sexiest guy. He just continues to find ways to win. And the reason he finds ways to win is because he's just a craftsman at that wide receiver position. He's not somebody that's overly twitched up or traitsed up that is just winning with pure athleticism. He understands leverage. He understands spacing. He understands timing. He's that guy that, if you're a quarterback, he's going to be in his spot. If you're supposed to take 4 yards and sit, he's going to be there no matter what. If it's off coverage, if it's press, whatever the coverage is, if you expect him to be in position A, he'll be in it. And that's because of the time he spent with the Rams and the time that he spent in Detroit. And even
to add that, Anthony, real quick, you talked about the Rams and the Lions. That's all great too, for the complexity and, how much they throw at those guys from the football IQ standpoint, but also the willingness to block in those run games.
Yep.
You got to be able to block in those run games from those teams. And he's a guy willing to do that. And again, he's got some of that size. So I think, again, he's just a well-rounded wide receiver. And when I popped on his film, I knew he's always been solid, but the critical moments, like the catches he was making, the things he was doing in that offense, I was just impressed, especially, like I said, the route running, ability to uncover with his route running, not his speed, not his physicality, his footwork, how he sets up the break point. It was all just smooth, efficient. And again, when you want some stability, he will be there, because for years we talked about the Bills receivers kind of running those unorthodox type routes and those option routes, and there's really no timing to it. Well, if the Bills, as we assume, do scale back some of those option routes and kind of structure the offense more for Josh so he can go through progressions more and a little easier, he's the kind of guy that will add that stability to that straight drop back game. And even some of those clips, even some of that play action shot calls where he snaps a route off from a post to a stop or to a dig route. He's going to add a lot of good stuff to the receiver room across the board.
And you also have to think too, keep in mind with a Reynolds or a Noah Brown, if they're coming in and being quote unquote wide receiver 2, that doesn't necessarily mean they're option 2 in this offense. Diggs is option 1.
Yeah.
Dalton Kincaid is probably option 2. Khalil Shakir or James Cook, 3 or 4, something like that. So you're
boundary guy.
You are looking for a wide receiver 2 with a specific skill set to win in certain ways that fits the offense and complements the rest of the weapon hierarchy that you have. Now, again, if you could get Rome Odunze in the draft, awesome. Your wide receiver 2 is phenomenal. Right. He can probably be target 2. He can do everything great. But also with what you have from an established standpoint, you're looking with someone that ticks specific boxes. If you can get someone that ticks all of them, amazing. But given the price point you're living at, like the Reynolds of the world, the Noah Browns of the world, they provide value to the Bills because of their skill set and the role they can occupy for that cost.
Yeah, again, that costs $5 a year. That's probably even on the high. Who knows? For wide receivers, guys, that's super cheap. Let's keep that in perspective. That's super cheap. You're talking Gabe Davis as that wide receiver 2 is going to get probably 12 to 15 million a year. Getting Josh Reynolds for that $5 million AAV is just crazy cheap. So let's move on to number 3 on your list, man. A guy I think everybody's familiar with, Mr. DaQuan Jones.
So at first I was going to text you and be like, can we include Bills free agents on this? Yeah. And then I was like, I'm going to put him on anyway. That he ended up being number 1 on yours. So that's fine. Yeah. DaQuan Jones, I don't think we even need to dive into too much of him at this point, because everybody should know how awesome he is. I'm going to continue to say this. I truly believe that he was on pace for an all-pro season if he does not go down in 2023. What he was doing. And Eric, we wanted him, especially you had him tabbed. My number 1 guy a couple years back when they were UFAs was Austin Johnson, on that interior. You had
my
DaQuan.
Number 8 guy. That's actually right. Now.
Yeah,
he's back as a free agent.
That's right. I wanted Austin Johnson then. You had DaQuan tabbed, and the Bills ended up going with DaQuan. And we were both excited because, man, what he can do against the run and what he's going to do against the run and help with light boxes. And then both years, but especially 2023, he was like, no, I'm just going to uptick my pass rush game as well. And I'm going to push the
going
pocket.
Into his contract year too.
Going into contract year, tremendous timing for him. We know what he brings. And And I think that's a huge selling point, right? It's the high level of play combined with the known quantity aspect. He's a good character dude, tremendous football IQ and football intelligence, and he can win against the run. He holds his ground. He anchors. You can watch him drop the knee. He can win with a club. He can get penetration. His ability to understand and diagnose and deconstruct blocking schemes. And when we had him in the film room the second time, Eric, and he's talking about, well, the guard reached me here and the way he did it, I knew he was trying to do this, which allowed me to do this to beat him and then check down the running back. He was talking about a play he made, I think, against the Lions in 2022. And just everything that he brings, the scheme fit, the positional need, the anticipated cost. He shouldn't break the bank too much. You're looking at somebody who's probably like 2 years, 15 mil. You're looking at around like $7 to $9 million AAV, depending on how much someone's going to buy into him at, going into his age 32 season. But we know what he brings. Dude's a bully up front. We already know his fit, and then the need that the Bills have on the D line. I would welcome him back with open arms.
Yeah, he's number one on my list. So he definitely is a guy that I'd like to have back. I mean, we saw how important he's been to the Bills defense the last couple of years when you're talking the Bengals game and not being there. And then when you saw him go down last year, I mean, if you look at some of the splits for Ed Oliver's numbers just dropped. So listen to some of these numbers when we're talking splits with DaQuan in the lineup versus out. So 14th in run stop percentage, DaQuan Jones was. Oliver was 5th when they were both in the lineup. Oliver dropped to 49th in run stop percentage when Jones was out. So DaQuan Jones, when he was playing, 1st in pass rush productivity. Oliver, 6th overall. So the Bills had 2 top 10 pass rushers in productivity, according to PFF, when they're both in the lineup. Oliver stayed in 5th. He actually moved up 1 spot in pass rush productivity when Jones was out. So he was just always he really brought out the best in Ed Oliver in a lot of ways, especially you're talking stopping the run, whether it was run or pass. DaQuan was occupying 2 offensive linemen quite frequently, like near the top of the league before he got injured, whether you're talking run or pass, and he was still super effective. And when he went out, you saw, teams start to get some of those creases inside against the Bills run defense. And as I said, Ed Oliver's run stop percentage took a big hit there, dropping to 49. So we know how important DaQuan Jones is to the Bills defense. And if they aren't able to get him back in the first wave, I do think that number of 2 years, 15 million, maybe, in that second or third wave, maybe those numbers become palatable for the Bills and maybe they are able to make something happen, especially if you're able to split it up over a couple years and that number overall is, kind of decreases.
Yeah. And I'm hoping, I want to be careful in saying this because like he deserves to go chase the bag in whatever form or fashion that he wants to. Like he's a tremendous player, go get that money, but he likes the team. He likes the culture. He likes the city. He likes us. I'm hoping that, maybe he wants to take a little bit of like hometown type of discount type of thing for the comfort of the Buffalo Bills and everything that the city and the team bring him. But yeah, it's just nice knowing it when you bring in a free agent like that, there is no like projection to it. Exactly what he's going to be because of what he's been. And I love the numbers you brought with his impact on Oliver. He makes everyone around him better. He is a true force multiplier on the interior. And again, defensive line is super scary this offseason because the Bills have nobody.
Yeah, and speaking of defensive line, a guy that has always been disruptive and, an all-around very good player is defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins, a guy that you have, was it number 2 on your list, I believe?
Yes,
number 2 on your free agent wish list. So what you got on him?
So he's my favorite guy on my list, and he's at the spot where, we'll talk about my number 1, obviously, whenever we get to it, but Rankins is what I think a realistic quote unquote like splash move could be for the Buffalo Bills. Like with the cap space that they can create, they have the opportunity to sign someone with around like a double digit, like average annual value. They don't have to bring in everybody that's going to be like 1 or 2 year deals for $2 or $3 million. They have the opportunity to make, again, relative like splash. They're not going to go out and sign Brian Burns or Mike Evans or Jags Josh Allen, but Sheldon Rankins, I think, is a realistic type of splash move that they can make. And I start with his versatility. You watch him in Houston, and he's lining up as, a 4-eye at times. You'll get 3 tech reps, 1 tech reps, 4-eye. He'll play some nose and play some of that zero shade. But with his size and his athleticism and just the pass rush move set that you get with him is something that just immediately stands out. 6'2", 305 pounds, and you're seeing it a bunch here. He's got a spin move. He's got a push pull. He's got an arm over or a swim. He can beat you with a bull rush. He can beat you with a swipe or a club. He's got good hand usage. The lateral agility and explosion is key for me. And this one's nice. Like, he doesn't drop the knee a ton as a guy when he takes on double teams, especially when he's at 1 tech. He beats double teams. He anchors well, but he's more of, he uses more weight transfer, shifting from right to left leg, absorbing that kind of contact and then splitting or staying over the top. But he has this built in where he can drop the knee. And either way, however he does it or chooses to do it, he doesn't give ground. He gums up the works. He's got really good block recognition. There's a couple reps in this clip where, especially one against the Titans, where they're running crunch. And so the left guard is trying to trap him. And he steps forward and sees that the right guard in front of him is going past him. And his eyes immediately get down the line of scrimmage. Yeah. He beats that block and makes the
play. He jumps over the top of it, right?
Yes, exactly. And immediately recognizes it. And so that type of veteran savvy, the ability to, block recognition, block deconstruction, the hand placement is key, right? Like, he's got quick, violent, explosive hands. Aaron Cromer would love his game with the pop and hand usage that he has. He works really well as a spiker and a looper in 2-man games and stunts. And just, again, his ability to quickly discard blockers in the run and the pass, the athleticism, the juice, while also having some ability to anchor and play that role. I think the versatility is nice, but I think he could succeed as that 1 tech, getting that pen. Oh, here's the one. I was waiting for it. Watch him. Immediately sees it. Immediately sees that trap coming. Yep, knows that it's coming. And then has the quickness and the physicality. I think he'd be a nice partner in crime with Ed Oliver. And, at 29 years old, you sign him to a 2 or 3 year deal, gives you that consistency for a couple years, can play the run, but then also gives you that pass rush juice. He's a true 3-down player that fits into kind of a realistic splash type of move.
Yeah, it's funny. You can see both of our summaries there. Anthony put, the summary number 1, and then his signature skill or trait for Rankins was his pass rush arsenal. And if you look at my summary behind that, right after that, you're going to see a lot of the same keywords, explosive, versatile, diverse arsenal of moves.
Block recognition.
Disrupts plays, holds his ground against double teams through leverage and weight transfer. Again, guys, these are scouting reports that we did separately and are bringing it to the first time, here to the show. Demonstrates keen blocker recognition. That Titans play is a great example of that. And being able to diagnose versus a run. And he's got that, again, that ability to be a stunter, a looper. And the usage of hands. There's another one. Again, it's pretty funny to see the 2 scouting reports side to side there. And I just like his overall savviness. Again, he's an experienced guy. I can't remember who said it. It was someone in our Slack channel. Maybe like they can't believe how he's still only 29. At this point. He's,
that's what got me too. I remember him back when he was with the Saints, and I was like, well, he's got to be like 33 right now. And I was like, 29. And I thought it was a misprint on PFF. So I went and looked it up. I was like, no, he is 29. And I think that's part of what puts him above DaQuan for me as well, knowing you're still getting, not that age is going to hinder DaQuan too much, but knowing that you're still getting kind of that right side of 30, and the cost that being only a couple $1 million more is something that intrigues me as well. But again, the need, it's just, I think it's no coincidence that like our top 2 needs for this team are defensive line, and our lists are filled with defensive line.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, we're going to attack it all ways. And especially if we're talking some of the bargain guys. Rankins, I think the projection you and Greg put together was like 2 to 3 years, 9 to 11 mil AAV. So like you said,
yes,
kind of would be considered a splash in this type of free agency for the Bills. So again, it would be one of those it would be a bigger name, but he definitely fits what the Bills do, whether you looked at his film that we showed or even back to, as you said, some of the Saints footage. Again, a similar defense that Malcolm Roach, my number 2, your number 8, kind of played in as well. Just more a different, skill set when we're talking that. So let's go to my number 3 here, safety Alohi Gilman from the Chargers. I'll let that roll while I talk about him. Contract projection, 2 years, $6 million, about $3 million AAV, $3 million guaranteed, according to Greg. The thing I liked about him was his angles to the ball and how he's not the Jeremy Chinns of the world, the Kyle Duggars of the world. He has to play faster from the shoulders up. He's got to diagnose things, and you're going to see a lot of plays on the ball in these cut-ups. A career high 7 PBUs, and he only gave up 22 receptions on 34 targets. He's a guy I could absolutely see fitting in the Bills scheme this year. It was something that when I talked to him in Mobile, I thought he was a fit back then, playing a lot of quarters coverage, back in his college days. Just a reliable guy, communicates prior to the snap. He plays a lot in the slot, but deep at safety depth, and he's able to click and close on those quick game passes underneath and make tackles. And he takes, again, great. Some of these angles to the ball are just crazy phenomenal. Again, not a fast guy. Excels in zone coverage. Pretty good tackling here and there. He'll miss some in the open field, but relatively good tackler, and sound tackler and angles to the ball. Despite average reactive athleticism, he demonstrates efficient transitions and composure when the ball's in there. So when the ball's in the air, he's tracking it down the field, 20, 30, 40 yards down the field. He doesn't panic. He keeps his composure, he keeps his poise, and he's able to make plays on the ball. So some of the downfalls with him, as I mentioned, he can occasionally struggle with tunnel vision, biting on play action, kind of like Chinn in many ways, leaving his assignment uncovered. But overall, his ability to read and play and make impact plays, that's the thing, plays on the ball, fumbles force, interceptions, PBUs. He did it all last year, and the Bills, we know, love that about players, especially at the safety position. McDermott just drools over guys like Gilman.
Absolutely. And Erica, as you pull those clips up, I'll keep kind of waxing poetically on Mr. Gilman there. We talked about him a little earlier in kind of the contrast to Jeremy Chinn, just like the range, more of that post safety, more of that free safety type of mentality, or not mentality, skill set and kind of play style. And again, I like the mental aspect. And you take the mental aspect, how he sees the field from deep, and then his ability to function as a zone defender. And it just sounds like a Sean McDermott type of hire. He's one of the dudes who, man, it's so funny how many individual players I like from the Chargers defense and how they just were such a horrible defense, like year in and year out. Even too, like you got 2 Chargers on your list, like Austin Johnson and Alohi Gilman, like Derwin James is nasty. Like you have some dudes who offer actual like good football on-field production and execution. They just were never able to put it together. But I think the big thing for me that I would like with Gilman is how well he would pair with Jordan Poyer. Those skill sets complementing one another, what you can do with Poyer and where he would live at this stage in his career, and then what you can do with Gilman. Again, he can function deep as that single high post safety. He can function in those 2 high looks, extremely smart, great communicator, can play from the top down. And then knowing kind of that veteran presence next to him, like Jordan Poyer offers you, I think that's also a nice piece for him. Like a lot of times he's playing with different safeties or rookie safeties in LA, or he's playing opposite of Derwin James, who the Chargers use kind of like Jeremy Chinn a bit and throw him anywhere and everywhere. So pairing him with Poyer, you kind of get more stability for Alohi Gilman, and maybe his game takes a jump because of the scheme fit and the reliability of playing with somebody like Poe. Just look at this one. I really like to like, that's a bad throw that he picks off. But even if that throw is online, he's in great position to cover down on that throw. Like it's just his understanding and his spatial awareness and how he spaces out routes and collects from the route distribution here, right? Yeah, he sees the break, he's driving on it, and then adjusts his track to go back and make the interception off the wild throw. He's a reliable piece on the back end, and that would be a nice addition. And again, going to be cheap.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to be cheap. He's going to be, and the safety market is always just wacky, man.
So
like
weird.
There's usually the contracts are just so cheap. I mean, let's be honest. And the safety market's been, on the downward spiral for many years, man. I mean, last year, as I said, 7 PBUs, 2 interceptions. He had several fumbles forced. You even saw, that happen against the Bills with James Cook, where he goes into the box and strips the ball out of James Cook's hands. He's He makes plays on the ball. He's a heady player. I pictured him in the Bills defense coming out of college, and I still can picture him now in free agency.
I mean, it's funny again how we continue to go with those dudes, like, and yeah, especially at a position of need like that, he ticks so many of the boxes. The ball skills is tremendous, like whether it's the forced fumble aspect or the interceptions. Like, I think that playmaking aspect is something this team will miss without Micah Hyde.
Yeah.
Like his ability on the back end to, and he would have some big plays like forced fumbles like earlier in his stint with the Bills, but just that blanket that he was on the back end and the ball production that he had, that's actually something too that makes me kind of worried about Jeremy Chinn is like, he hasn't had that ball production, like on the back end from a pass standpoint. Like he's had some really good forced fumbles and some strips, but he'll be in position and they kind of just fail at the catch point a little bit. Like Gilman, you have more of a refined polish to the ball production aspect. He's somebody that will help turn the ball over. And that's a nice complementary piece when paired with the Bills offense. And we continue to talk about complementary football and so on and so forth, as people still think it's kind of a made up term.
All right. So that was my number 3. We talked about number 2 with Malcolm Roach and even my number 1, DaQuan Jones. So let's get to your number 1 player on your top Bills targets. Defensive end Jonathan Greenard from the Houston Texans, man. What did you like about Greenard's game? I mean, I know I watched him as well, and there's a lot to like. I know that.
Yes, my first thing with him that I love, and I reserve this phrasing for, it has to fit the guy, but it's something I hold near and dear to my heart. He plays like a velociraptor. That is like something I absolutely love. And
you're like, I have to fit that in.
Yes, I have to. Like, that's my favorite thing. And the way I always kind of quantify that, like, think about how the San Francisco 49ers front always plays. All those dudes, like they hit everything that moves. They're fast, they're violent, they're angry. That's how they play. And it's no coincidence that Greenard plays like a Raptor, considering D'Amico Ryans was his head coach this year and came from the San Francisco 49ers. Now, what I want to say with this, Sheldon Rankins is the realistic splash player that I could see the Bills making. Jonathan Greenard is at the top of the tier or the far end of the spectrum, however you want to put it, in terms of like the pushing the limit of what a splash could be for the Buffalo Bills.
What are we talking numbers wise? What are you thinking?
Let me go to contract projection pieces for him. So I'm thinking again, so he's going into his age 27 season. From a term perspective, I'm thinking 3 to 4 years. He's going to push ballpark around 15 million AAV, probably somewhere 25 to 30 million guaranteed. Now, Bills can fit that in, but that's pushing it. It's at the top of the price point aspect. But given the need, the scheme fit, and everything that he does, and also pairing him with what Greg Rousseau's contract looks like going forward, is a tremendous idea. Von Miller muddies it a little bit, kind of thinking what he's going to be. But I'll get to that on the back end. So his strengths, what's nice about him, again, he ticks kind of that archetype box. He goes speed to power. He can compress the pocket, but at the same time, his hand placement, hand usage, and hand pop that he can use to create knockbacks against offensive linemen also allows him to win inside or get around the arc on guys. He's got a really good pass rush plan. The game against Cincinnati was one of my favorites from him. He spends the entire first half. He spends the entire first half of that game running through Orlando Brown. He's going through his chest or he's going outside. Then in the second half, he's taking those outside moves and going at his chest, and Brown is anticipating it, and he's going inside, and he's winning inside with his hands or with quickness consistently. Seeing him put that pass rush plan together is something that got me very excited. Being able to go from those speed to power.
That double-handed swipe inside. That's his favorite move, that double-hand swipe.
Yeah.
But he's so good at doing it, not just outside and winning the outside hip, but he does this too, like inside double-handed swipe, and he gets that inside lane against Brown. Like you said, he was feasting against the Bengals. Look at the power move here against Brown.
And so that swipe, that inside move, is one of the first couple series in the third quarter, because he spent the entire first half, literally, Orlando Brown, who's like 340 something pounds, he's getting into Brown's chest and lifting him up off the ground and going through him. And then, that one against Zach Wilson, that quickness inside against Mekhi Becton, boop, inside, loses his balance, and then gets the sack. Like the quickness, the get off.
Outside swipe. There's an outside double-handed swipe. Watch again against Becton here. Boom. Look at that. Wins the outside hip.
And it's so well coordinated. Like when he hits it, he usually hits that swipe as he's turning the arc, and then he flattens so he won't get pushed upfield. So he just does so many things you like. And he also plays the run really well. He
Yeah.
consistently wins against tight ends, whether in pass protection or against the run. And again, he plays the run with as much intensity and velociraptor aspect. That's a forced fumble on that one, just in case, people are wondering like, oh, why'd they show an incompletion? Nice forced fumble that he got on Will Levis there. Just the way he plays the run, plays the pass, plays like a velociraptor, speed to power, hand placement, athleticism, juice, pocket compression. I still also think he's on an upward trajectory for his career. I think he's somebody that will continue to get better. Again, he's going to be at the top of that price point. I think he's more unrealistic than Sheldon Rankins is, but I still think it's a possibility given the money that the Bills can open up, his scheme fit, and the need that they have at this position. Just, so many man, it just the way he wins like with violence and aggression. It's not like even when he wins clean, there's like nastiness to it, and it's just such a beautiful aspect that this Bills team could potentially add. But again, there's going to be cost.
Yeah, and a couple bullet points for me. We talked about it. I think he might have the best double-handed swipe in the league, inside and outside. Wow. Watch it here. Again, it's so quick, it's so compact. He's the thing about it here. He's got a chipper and a running back coming out there, and he's not trying to cut it back inside. He's taking that same line to the quarterback. That efficient, violent double-handed swipe. He still wins the outside edge there, the flush the quarterback out of the pocket. Speed to power, pass rush move. His pop on contact. You see it there. Like he hits people like a Mack truck, and he goes right through them and right through the front door of the offensive lineman. Wins with technique and effort, power and leverage, get under the center of gravity, as you saw in that Saints play there, and it causes them to lose their grounds. He puts guys on skates, he puts guys on their ass, like you see there. Like it's a highlight reel of speed to power moves. Here, I got to go back to the beginning again. Watch this. I'm going right through you. Physicality. Again, blowing up the offensive
he does
lineman
that one
left
like
and
with
right.
there's multiple clips in this game where he uses his head. That's another one too, like literally. So the first thing that's making contact with Aquanu's chest is his head. He's using his head as a battering ram. He will do whatever it takes to get through you. And what's also a nice helpful piece, 34.875-inch arms, almost 35-inch arms. Like that's a really nice piece to add. We know the Bills like guys with long arms and who can compress the pocket. Good question here from JG saying, is he a guy that the Texans will franchise? Honestly, I don't think he's a guy they'll franchise. If he gets out of Houston, I would be very surprised. Like just if his fit, the need there, they don't have a ton of dudes that are breaking the bank from a money perspective. I think Rankins could slip away given the depth that they have there. But the Greenard Will Anderson pairing,
it's a nice pairing.
It's a tremendous pairing. And Will Anderson's cost effective and cheap because he's on that rookie deal and is only going into year 2. I would be surprised if he left Houston, but it's very possible given how attractive certain teams like the Bills might be, maybe some of the money they commit to, and maybe he wants to go carve out his own name somewhere else.
Yeah, and so Greenard, we both did a summary reports on him, and we even threw our signature skill and traits there on the website.
I put aggressiveness because I didn't think you would let me say Velociraptor.
Oh, you can, of course you can, man. We put it in there. Put it in there in the summary. So yeah, aggressiveness for you. I said pass rush plan, effectiveness, but you can see when you read our summary reports on the website how similar they are when you watch that film. I mean, that was Greenard's film as a pass rusher. He's very good against the run. I agree. I think he plays with great extension, great pad level in the run to set edges. He can control offensive tackles and tight ends. There's no doubt about it. But that hit reel for his pass rush was just so much fun to watch because he can win in so many different ways. And the best thing about him, and it's in my notes, is that, he's got that arsenal. He's got that array of moves and pass rush moves, but he doesn't use them back-to-back reps. He doesn't use them, in back-to-back reps. He'll save it for another drive, another half. You'll see it, and then you'll see it like Orlando Brown struggle with. He goes to anchor, and then he's countering immediately. He's got something ready for the offensive lineman after they've seen X move against it. He's got the next level, and he's got that motor, man. He was another guy coming out, was a scheme fit for the Bills defense. I know we said it several times.
From Florida,
he was a guy
right?
that he was an archetype fit for the Bills years ago. And I would love to have him in the Bills defense. I don't know if it financially can be done. But all things considered, at the very least, that was an awesome hit reel.
Right?
From
Just to show
him.
an awesome reel.
So,
The only thing that I'm kind of hoping a little bit, maybe not that he gets forgotten about, but you do have Brian Burns and you do have Josh Allen and you have these other guys on the defensive line in general. Yes. So like hoping he kind of falls down a little bit from a market perspective, or maybe there are teams that look at his entire body of work and say, you know what? I don't think I want to pay that much for maybe potentially 1 year of this like ultimate production. We kind of want to scale it back a little. So there are some potential mitigating factors, but yeah, he very much looks like a dude on the rise. And I love that point that you mentioned about like the moves and how he sets it up. And I think that's what intrigued me the most. Like, so you've got this physicality, you've got this juice, and you've got the moves, but his understanding of how to use them. He's not out there just trying to two-hand swipe every single rep. He's not just going speed to power. He sets things up. There's a plan. You can tell he's kind of testing the cage a little bit in the early part of the games. And in the second half, when those moves hit, there's such clean wins because he's been setting it up for the entirety of the game. And he's going to be, an absolute treat for anyone that signs him. Somehow the Chiefs will get him because that's the way football works.
No, this was fun. Again, we put our top 8. We have several guys that crossed over. We hope you guys enjoyed this. And this is something we're going to do the next few weeks, guys. We're going to bring, each, as the weeks go by, new names are going to be released because of contract situations. New guys are going to enter free agency or become free agents, can get signed immediately. Yes. So those guys, we're going to take a look at some of those players as the weeks go by, leading into the legal tampering period and free agency. And so these lists are going to change each week. We're going to, update these lists, change some of the guys around, I'm sure, because we're going to find new toys to play with essentially in the film room. And we're going to obviously add it to the website as well. And that's all of these, film clips and contract info, signature traits and skills, our take on it and just everything when it comes to scouting these guys in free agency, not just a draft as we enter draft season. That's all on the website. Again, go to cover1.football, click the page that says Buffalo Bills free agent targets, and you'll have access to all of our scouting reports, which of course include stats and film. So we thought that was fun, and it's something we're going to do the next few weeks.
Yeah, we love showing our work here in the Cover One Film Room and here on this show and just the work that we put up. And yeah, that fluid link and section on the website is going to be your go-to for this offseason aspect for the Bills free agency. We're going to start doing some of that with draft stuff, hopefully, as we go forward. It's going to be, again, a one-stop shop for anything and everything you need to know. The summary reports. And the big thing, again, like Eric said, it's tying it together with the metrics and the film. A lot of times when you're reading reports on something, like you go to literally any other website and it's like, oh yeah, Timmy's great at this and he's weak in this. And it's just a write-up. We have the film to back up what we are writing up in these reports. And as Eric starts to funnel through right now, you can see there's guys up on the site that we didn't even get to because they didn't crack our top 8, but they're still scheme fits. They're still affordable. They still tick other boxes. And who knows, maybe as we go forward, maybe, we watch more Anthony Jennings tape next week and you're like, you know what? He might creep into the top 8. This is a very fluid situation given the fluid nature of the league and the fluid nature of this time of year. And it's something that we're very proud of with that site piece. We'll continue to bring it up here in the show. And then again, you folks can check out that site piece on your own. Eric, as we start to wrap up here, anything you want to say to the people as we start to say our goodbyes?
Nikki G says, pretty sure my buddy's with DaQuan in Jamaica right now. Well, tell DaQuan we said hello then, because we had a little chat with him prior to the show, and who knows, maybe like Gabe Davis, maybe we get to work with DaQuan. Hopefully that is the case. We obviously had him in the film room. He's taught us a bunch over the years, and we'd like to somehow help him stay in a Bills uniform. That's right. And like we have with several other players across the league. No, Patrick, he says, awesome show once again, guys. Thanks for being here. Again, this was a lot of work to get to this point, as you can see on the website and all the, drafts, profile stuff for the free agency. It took a lot of work from everyone at the team, and we're appreciative that you guys came out and watched us live. And, we listed a bunch of players that we like, from a financial standpoint, from a scheme standpoint. In the comments, leave who you want us to take a look at for next week. Again, you guys drive this show. This is the time in the off season where, we're trying to create content for you guys. We did the entire free agent profile stuff on the website because of a survey we sent out to our insiders, and they wanted things like that, short form type content, but with the quality and in-depth look at things like we are known for. So let us know what players you want us to look at. Let us know why you think they're a fit from a financial or scheme standpoint. And who knows, they may make our list next week.
Yeah, there's so much work that goes into this, and this doesn't even take into all the, like, I'll speak for myself, like all the tape that I watched of dudes that I didn't like.
Yeah, dude.
And that is such a letdown, because you're trying to carve time and you're like, okay, let me put together like this list of what I want to do. And I watched like 6-7 guys. I'm like, oh, I hate them all. Like, let me go back to the drawing board.
Scrap that.
Yeah, just crumple the typical, like, crumple the paper and throw it away.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot more to come for us on the show as we start to move forward. And like Eric said, thank you very much to all you folks who tuned in live with us here in this episode of the Film Room. We greatly appreciate the attendance, the engagement, the comments, the back and forth with each other, the back and forth with ourselves. So thank you very much for all that. We greatly appreciate it. For our listeners on the audio side of things, thank you very much for your listen, your download. If you are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever have you, please, and thank you. Subscribe to the Cover One Film Room. If you're on YouTube, whether you're watching live or watching later, please drop a like on this video. Likes are the lifeblood of these streams. They go a long way towards helping us to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. So please, and thank you. Drop a like on this video if you have not already, and then turn on notifications for this playlist. And of course, subscribe to the Cover One channel, where we have you covered 5 out of the 7 days a week with a variety of different content, Bills related, different levels of analysis, different opinions, entertainment pieces. So whatever your flavor of content is, we have you covered here at the brand. Eric, anything else before we say goodbye?
No, man, it was an action-packed show. Go back if you didn't, you joined us late, jump back, and we're going to throw the timestamps in there, and so you can look at specific players that maybe interest you.
Absolutely. Well said. Oh, great comment here from RP saying it's this offseason content all year. That's the reason I'm a One Pass member. Great plug.
Yeah,
for the One Pass piece. And Eric's putting the free agent link to the site up into the chat right now. So go ahead and click on that. Take a piece. As always, One Pass members, insiders, all that stuff. There's a lot of things happening, like we talked about earlier, a lot of moving and shaking, and a lot of things that we offer our insiders and our subscribers. This is just one small piece, an example of it. Again, thank you very much to everybody who tuned in live, not live, audio only, YouTube, whatever have you. Drop likes, ratings, reviews, subscription, word of mouth, as always, is tremendous. Tell your family and friends and loved ones, or anybody who likes ball or the Bills, or again, you might not be a Bills fan, but you have an interest in some of these players we broke down here. Cool. Like, tell them to come on over. We appreciate the old-fashioned word-of-mouth support as much as anyone, so that's greatly appreciated. However form or fashion your support comes in. But until next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, for another episode of the Cover One Film Room, that'll do it for us here on this show. For myself, Anthony Prohaska, for Mr. Eric Turner, we appreciate you folks more than you know. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. We'll see you next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, for another episode of the Film Room. And until then, Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.